Alright, looks like this is up and running. Just want to connect to my channel so I can see any potential stream chat. If you joined me last night or viewed any of the stuff from last night, this is going to be kind of a follow-up to some of that stuff based on some conversations we had. And most likely going to be looking at Synty Studio characters and retargeting them. Let's see here. I have a couple of different projects with Synty stuff in there, but I think I'll go ahead and create a brand new project just to get started. I don't know where am I. Let's see, we'll launch 424. That needs an update. We'll launch 423 then. And once we get rolling with that, we'll bring in some additional assets from Synty and start playing around with some of the retargeting options. And we also might get into the advanced locomotion system that I installed last night based on some feedback from Felix. So hopefully you guys are all doing well, safe and healthy. This live stream idea is basically just because, most of us over here in America are stuck indoors for the next several weeks foreseeably, maybe even longer, who knows. So I figured while that was going on, maybe some people would be interested in doing some live stream chats regarding gameplay creation. And I'm no expert, I'm just noodling around, but maybe I can answer some questions from people who are starters or just beginning like myself. So I'm going to go here, create a new third-person project, and we'll just call this Synty Retarget. And we'll go from there. So I'm going to create that new project and let that thing go. Give it a couple of seconds here to load up. If you're joining the stream, feel free to say hi so I know who's out there. Give it a couple seconds. But we're going to be from the ground up here on a third-person project and bringing in some Synty characters, and then probably get out to Mixamo, grab some new animations and things like that. And in some of my other live streams, or not live streams, but in some of my other tutorial videos, you probably had seen where I brought in the characters and then I would basically retarget the mannequin animations onto that character. And what happens with the Synty stuff, some of that gets a little squirrely looking because the characters are a little bit smaller maybe than the ones that you're seeing on the regular mannequin. So normally what I do is after I get my content set up, I would go out and get my project data from over here on my D drive somewhere. I probably have some Polygon stuff. And actually real quick, I'll go out to my Google Drive and get something a little bit more user friendly for the stream. So let's go here. We'll go to my Google Drive and go grab some of my Synty assets. I think I have them under Polygon or Synty Polygon. Let's see. Maybe under Synty Polygon. There's all my different packs that I have. So I had done this with Fantasy Character Pack because in the Fantasy Character Pack I actually bought this directly from Synty instead of buying it from one of the asset stores. And this actually had the skeletons in it, and it made it really super easy. So I'm just going to unpack this Polygon Fantasy Character Pack. Go in there and get this set up. Let's see here. Show in folder. There we go. And I will unpack this Synty Character Pack. And then all I normally do, you go in here and you get the one that's for Unreal. So I will extract that as well. Go in here and into the content folder. And you got this Polygon Fantasy Characters and everything that's underneath of that. So I would just copy, right click here and copy this. Go back to my Unreal project and I go over and I right click on one of the folders, say Show in Explorer. and that gets me into where the project's at. I go to the content folder, and I'm just going to right click now and paste in here to bring over my Polygon Fantasy character folder. And from there, it's now loaded into this, and I can go in and look at all the different things that are here. So if I were retargeting this directly, what I would do is I would go into one of these characters, and all these different characters have one skeleton, you can see, which is another nice reason to use this. But if I go in here and load up that one skeleton, it's already mapped for being a humanoid character, and you can apply this preview mesh. So right out of the box, you would already have a character that you could go and retarget the animations to. But again, like I said, sometimes it looks like it stretches these characters out a little bit. And so what I think I want to do instead is we want to look at the mannequin. Hey, how you doing, Felix? Sorry, I had over my own little world over here. What I want to do in the interim, though, is I'm going to go into the mannequin folder under the animations here, and we're going to kind of look at what things we have to duplicate to get onto the Synty character. So we have an idle run 2D and a jump, an idle, a jump in, jump loop, jump start, run, and walk, and then this blueprint. So I think what we want to do, maybe we'll create a new folder inside of here under Polygon Fantasy Characters. I'm going to create a new folder, and we're just going to call this Animations. And we will go into our mannequin folder in their animations, and we'll take this third person AnimBP, take a look inside of here, and what you should see under the third person AnimBP is that you have this animation graph, and you have a couple of variables. So is in air and speed, and a default state machine with an output pose. And inside of here, this is all your different animations that play for this character when he's standing around. So what I want to do is I want to duplicate this and use it on my character, and then replace the animations that are in it. From instead of using the ones from the mannequin and retargeting that on there, I'm going to upload my character to Mixamo and then get new animation files and replace the ones that are in here. So to do that, what we should be able to do is we'll right click this and say duplicate, and I'm just going to call this Synty _anim BP, and I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to drag it into my animation folder and just say move to here. So if I go into animations, I have that now. And if I pick a character, let's pick, who do we have in here? Let's see, we've got a peasant. That's the male rogue. Let's see, how's he? We could try male rogue. Of course, you can't really see his shoulders much because he's going to have that cape on. Who else is in here? There's a, supposed to say bard, but it says baird. And who else do we have? That's his physics asset. There's a wizard character. Same thing, he's got a robe on, but we'll pick, I don't know, let's take the wizard. So we're going to use the male wizard character instead of this, and we're going to map it to use our blueprint for the AnimBP. And then what we're going to do is change all the inside animations and stuff that are in here to reference in this anim graph our new character. So we're going to fix all that, I hope. That's the plan anyway. Alright, so the way I'm going to go about that, let's get back out here, and we're going to go to the third person blueprint for the game, and our third person character, we want to go in here to this mesh and the viewport, and we're going to replace this guy with the skeletal mesh for our character. We got a king in there too, let's use him. So we use the male king, and his anim class is going to be the Synty AnimBP, but you'll see he doesn't have any of the stuff set up to work yet, but this is what it's going to be assigned to when the time comes. So if we compile that, save it, you'll see there are characters out here, and if I hit play, I don't even know if he'll move around. He might move around because we're actually moving the controller. Let's see. Yeah, so we can glide around and jump, but he's not going to play any of the animations that go along with him. Okay, which is okay. Whoa. All right. Maybe you want to create a game where you have a king glider. Alright, so there's that. And so now what we do is we go into our anim BP for this character. And if we look at the entry state, it says that there's a third person idle run 2D. So we need to create one for ourselves. And we can do this a couple different ways. I could go back to the animations over here and copy this one over and replace the files that are in it. But what I'm going to do instead is, I think if we just say right click, animation, and there should be a blend space. Is there a blend space 2D? That's what they're using, right? Yeah, idle run 2D. Let's see what they got in there. It's actually a blend space 1D if you look in the parentheses there. So I'm going to create the same thing. I'm going to right click and say, actually if you do this, I feel like if you highlight your character first. So where's our king? Right there. And then right click and say, is there a thing in here for creating? No, I guess you don't have to do that. I thought maybe you had to reference the character by right-clicking on it. So I'll just go to animation. Maybe you reference it in here. And I'll say blend space 1D. Okay, and then it asks me to pick the skeleton. So I'm going to pick the SK character fantasy skeleton. And I'll call this Synty underscore blend space. I don't know that it matters if we call it 2D or 1D or anything like that. Whoops. Actually, I had to have my shift key on. So Synty blend space 2D. And in here, go here, change our preview mesh to the king. Apply that to the asset just so we're seeing the same thing. And we would need animation files in here for this, for our idle walk and run. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go out to Mixamo. And under the Mixamo engine here, we'll go and upload a character. And I'm going to select a character file from my D drive. And I have my Polygon Fantasy Character Pack. And in here, these are all going to be just the regular character files from the UE Asset store. Okay, so you can't use those. What you can do though is, if you had this pack, as I mentioned earlier, I bought this directly from the Synty. My goodness, if you go here to the source files, you can right click on this and say extract these, and then you're going to have a source file folder with FBXs in it that have all the different characters in there. And let's see what you have. Broom bucket, wizard staff. One of these should just be the character though. That's interesting. Oh, characters. My goodness. So here's your king, male king FBX. So I'm just going to copy the path to that, make it a little bit easier. Got here to Mixamo, say select character, and then I'll just paste that into the browser there and pull this up and find my male king and let it upload that. It'll take a minute to rig it all up and everything, and there we go. Now it doesn't have our textures on it and everything, but that's fine. So now I'm going to say next and proceed with that character in the viewport. And now we're going to look for our animations. So let's go back to what we need. Our mannequin has a idle, walk, and run. that should be in the blueprint here, right? So here is walk, there's idle, walk, and then from between there and there you get all the way out to run. So we're going to duplicate that same thing, idle, walk, and run. So let's look and see if we can find idle. So here's some idle animations. And let's see which ones we like. I guess it could basically be any of these because they don't really matter that much. So I'll pick this basic idle and see how it looks on the character. It's basically standing there, so fine. I'm going to download this and just leave the defaults on here. And I'm going to create a folder in my D drive, and I'm going to call this Mixamo King. Actually, I'll go Synty Male King, just so I can keep these kind of separated. And I actually will call this king underscore idle.fbx, and I'll put it in that directory. Then we're going to look for one called walk. And apply that to him. Now that's got, you'll see right here, the nice thing about if you do these individually, in a lot of my videos I talk about doing these as packs. But the nice thing about this, if I actually click in place, it'll fix the root bone issue for you right here, and you won't have that trouble. So I'm going to leave this as an in-place animation. I like this one, so we'll call that the walking. We'll download that. Same location. We're going to go back to D drive and Mixamo Synty Male King. And I'll call this king underscore walking. And then we'll do a run animation. Put that in place. That's a pretty good run. So we'll download that one. And same thing, we're going to go back to our D directory. We'll get the Synty Male King, and I'm going to call this king underscore running. And what should be possible now is, because I've used my Synty skeleton, and I uploaded my Synty skeleton to this and put those animations on that Synty skeleton, when I bring the individual animations in now, I should be able to assign them to that skeleton that's in the animation blueprint. So we're going to see how that works out, but that should be what the net result of this is. So I'm going to go out of here. I'm back in my Synty blend space. Actually, I want to close this out for now too and go back to my Polygon Fantasy Character Animation folder. I'm going to open up my D drive where I downloaded that stuff for the Mixamo Synty King. And this is where you got to be careful, but I'm going to pull all three of these together holding the shift key. I'm going to drag them into this space. And I should get some options. And what I want to do here is I want to pick a skeleton. And my skeleton is going to be the SK Character Fantasy Skeleton. And I want to say import animations using their exported time. And I always pick convert scene unit. And I should just be able to say import all. And hopefully it just brings in those three animations. That says the following bones are missing from the bind pose, which is okay because I don't have those IKs in there. And what all do we get here? King Idle. Oh, so that's actually created physics assets and skeletal meshes for each one, which we don't need. We just want the animations. So actually, when I pulled those in there, I should have taken off the skin, so we don't need all that other stuff. So here's the two things that we did have. These are brand new with all the asterisks on them. I'm going to actually delete those. Sorry about that. We're going to do that again, because we only want to import the animation itself, not all the other stuff that came along with it. Let's go back here, drag these in again, and we want to say assign it to this character, but we don't want to bring in the skeletal mesh. We just want the animation mesh. Or is it the other way around? Yeah, we want this mesh. See how there's two meshes there? Skeletal mesh and import mesh. I think if you leave the skeletal mesh on, that gets you the animations against that character. Convert scene unit on. Let's see. Import all. Yeah, so that just gives us the animations. And we should have... Let's go back to our preview mesh. The male king. And that's our idol. I don't know why it said take one on there though. King idol take one. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna delete that. Shouldn't have been in there. I don't know if it's something I pulled in. I'm gonna get all these take one files out of here because some kind of nonsense. All right, king running. Change our preview mesh to the king. Apply it to the asset. Looks good so far. And king walking. Same thing. Preview the mesh to the king. Apply that to the asset and save it. And now in our blend space for the king, we should be able to bring in idle is going to be all the way over here on the left. And walking starts there. And then running will be all the way out here on the end. And now if you move your dot back and forth here, it'll show you how it transitions from one to the other. So there's our idle into walking, and from walking into running. So now we have our blend space called Synty Blend Space 2D. And what we want to do is go back into the animation blueprint, and we're going to change this. So we're going to go, I think if I just type in Synty, pulls up my blend space player, and then I can just reconnect these nodes. So I'm going to come off the speed node into that node, and off of the animation pose into the result. And then I can highlight that and delete it. And if I say compile, let's see, references blend space, it uses different skeleton. Where's that at? Synty blend space 2D, references blend space, it uses a different skeleton. Well, yeah, that is what we're doing though. What is... What is going on here? I saved that. That is the right thing. There must be some kind of a... reference. Missing allocated node for anim graph node blend space player 0 while searching for node links. Blend space player references blend space that uses different skeleton. So I guess it has a skeleton assigned to this. Well, if that's the case, then what we will do is we'll just right click, and I thought I said this though. I thought I said new animation. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I copied the other one. So let's go animation blueprint. And then you have to base it on this other skeleton. So we'll do that. We'll say okay, and we'll call this Synty underscore anim, and the other one's got a BP, so I'll put underscore BP, and we're going to delete that second one. So now it's based on the correct skeleton. My fault. Go back to the anim graph, and we'll grab this whole thing. We'll go back to Synty anim BP under its animation graph. Control V that in there. Drag that in. Now that should have all of our other stuff in it, but we just have to change the animations, which we were in the middle of doing when that thing hosed out on us. And the only other thing is the Synty anim BP has these two variables, is in air and speed. And if you hover over these, you can tell what their types are, and the color coding also tells you as well. But we need a variable called is in air, and it's going to be a Boolean, which is basically a yes no, and then we need a speed, which is going to be a float, which is basically a number from 0 to 0.00001, etc. So we'll go and we'll create those two variables in our other BP, and we'll do those over here. New variable. So we're going to say is in air question mark was the name of that, and that was a yes no. And the other one is a float. So we'll create another variable. And that one was called speed. I'll change this type first and then just reassign its name up here. So that is a float named speed. And what do we got there? Okay. Now that's okay, because what it's telling us is that all these things reference a sequence that use a different skeleton now. And so what it means is that the old, this one's okay because I changed that one, but the other one has some bad stuff in it. So let's get rid of that. We're going to go in here. We want to go back now. This is threaded because I did this earlier. I want to go back to the third person blueprint just real quick. And under here, we're going to change our mesh to use the underscore BP. So Synty anim underscore BP. And we'll compile that, save it, and then that will give us the ability to go back here to this animation folder and delete this one. That was assigned to the incorrect skeleton. So we'll get rid of that guy. Should be gone. And our blend space player there should work now. And these other ones that we're going to have problems with is our jump start and our jump loop and our jump. And it should say the same thing here, start, jump, jump loop, all those things. Because in this anim graph, our idle run has the correct thing on it, but, and actually let's go preview mesh to the king and save that. But the our anim graph has the wrong jump start animations on it. So we need a third person jump start. And you can see on these, I mean, that's a very short jump start. And then you're going to have another one called jump loop, which is basically while they're in the air. And then you're going to have another one called jump end. Right? So from idle to run, you can get to jump start. And then you loop until you land when you get close to the ground, and then you end. So we want to go jump start, jump loop, and jump end to find these. I'm going to go back out to here. And I don't know if we can just find something as simple as jump start. And then starting jumping jack. So you have to find jump. And go in place. I don't like that jump. Put these in place. That's kind of a silly looking jump. Let's just jump. It's jumping down. No good. It's jumping up. No, it's jumping over something like a log. Jumping up. Jumping down. It's not bad, but it's kind of weird. That looks more like a running jump there. Whoa. Jumping backwards. Jumping down. Jump forward, but he's holding a gun. This is going fantastic, isn't it? Let's see, jumping. There's a running jump, but it's over something. There's a running jump without being on anything, so if we could hold that in place, it'd be nice. Not good, though. Where are we at here? I'm going to have to find... If there's... I know there's... It's kind of silly, but if we go to adventure jump, maybe it... I'm going to have to just accept one of these. It's not horrible. I just don't like it. But anyway, we'll say it's good enough. Now, what you can do in these... There's... It says it's got all these different frames. And so I think if you isolate a portion of this, see what I'm doing there? There's 16 frames from the beginning. Not so many generic ones like start jumping, landing, falling. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to solve right now. So if I can find one that has the overall jump in it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this trim to get frames from the front end, frames from the back end, and frames from the middle, so that I can assign them to jumping, and end. Like, in other words, if I could find a spot where the guy's up in the air, that's at the end of it, maybe closer to here. You know what I mean? If I can trim this up, there you go. So like there's where he's in the air a little bit. That could be my jumping loop. But we're gonna figure this out real quick, and I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna go into the third person jump start again, and I'm just gonna look at how many frames it is. So this is 13 frames of starting to jump. And I'm gonna take the same approach out here and get 13 frames of this in the beginning. Let's go 13, there's 12, 14, there should be 13, nope. There you go, 13 total frames of that. And I'm going to download that. And I'm going to say, we want to call that King Start Jump. Is there any way to reverse an animation in UE4? I think there probably is, because there are things that I've seen in there that indicate that you can pick where you start an animation and stuff. I haven't gotten that deep into it. I could do some research on it to try and find out if what I'm saying is even remotely true, but I feel like I have seen something like that. All right, so now our next piece we need to find in the animations We'll go back in here, and we're going to say that our jump loop, I want to see how long that is. So that's 20 frames, but it's basically just the character, 20 frames of the character looping in a jump fall kind of thing. And I think, again, if I go back to the king thing here and trim that out to where he's actually in the air, that's 7 total frames. Let's see if I can get like the whole range of where he's before he hits the ground. I don't think he's quite hitting the ground there. Let's see. We'll pause this. So he's in the air. He's jumping. Almost touching the ground. I'm going to pull that back a little bit. Really just kind of need like those couple of frames right there probably would be more than enough. Let's see if we can get, what's that doing? 6 frames of that. So in here, if you do it inside of the Mixamo thing, you can actually go to mirror right here, and that'll reverse it for you. So if you find animations you like and you hit mirror, that'll play it in the exact opposite. Alright, so we need to go like maybe to frame 31. There's 33. $33 to $37. What's that do? That might be it right there. Doesn't have to be much. Let's download that. We're going to call it jumping. We can always come back and fix these if they're jacked up, which I think they're going to be a little jacked up, but we'll come back and fix it. So I'm going to download this one and save this as, yeah, take your time. I'm just noodling around here. Go back in and save this as Synty Male King, and this is our jump loop. Which we may have to tweak. And then we need one to jump end, which again, that should just be the back end of this for whatever number of frames they have. So I'll go back in here and look at not the third person jump loop, but we want to go to the jump end. And that's just 5 frames basically of the character landing. Yeah, so the first foot starts to hit the ground and the second foot comes down. So we'll go back here and we should have the same type of thing. Let's reset it. That says a frame 30 from the beginning, so that should be 88 in here. Actually, just do that. Looks like. I want to get it like right there. Kind of feel like that's it. So I'm going to download this one, and same thing, I'm going to call this the jump end. Okay. Save that. And let's go into our folder now. And we want to go back to our animation folder. So let's close this. I got my animation folder for my Polygon Fantasy character. And I'm going to pull up my jump end, jump loop, and start jump. Drag those in here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say allows animation only import when importing a skeletal mesh. So we want to do that. We're going to assign that to the fantasy skeleton, the exported time, and leave all these here and say import. Oh, it's asking for each one because I said import instead of import all. That's okay. I'll just assign the character, same thing, say import, and assign the character again, say import, and it should bring those in for me. Now I'm going to get rid again of these take one things. I don't know what that's on there for. I probably have a setting turned on in Mixamo, I would guess, but I know that I don't need these. So I got a start jump, a jump loop, and a jump end. Save these. Go back into my animation blueprint. And in here, I want to go to the jump start. And we're just going to right click in here and say play. Just scroll up. It should be the ones that are in your animation. So I'm going to play king jump, or start jump rather. Play king start jump. There's my third person jump. I'm going to change that. So this just goes to my result. Take that off of there. I don't know why I keep changing my preview mesh on here. Okay. Now I got to do the one for jump loop. So again, I'm going to right click and say play. Scroll up to the top, and I'm going to find king jump loop. Bring that in. Drag that up to here. Delete it. And I should get another one here. We want to go to jump end. I'm going to say play. Scroll up and we'll find our jump end, which is that state there. All right, we're going to put that in. Take this off. Now we're still going to have some issues in here because we have the transitions that we didn't fix yet. So we have our proper Synty blend space there. Let's go back through these real quick. Our jump start is our king jump start. Our jump loop is our king jump loop, and our jump end is our king jump end. But the transitions are going to reference some things here, so that's okay on that variable. My guess would be there's going to be a timer somewhere in here, not a timer, but like a reference to how long something lasts, right? So how much time remaining is left on here before it can transition into this. And what it does is it takes a look at the overall number of frames that are in that jump start and figures out at the end of the jump start how it transitions into jumping. So all we have to do is just change our reference here, and this has to be a time remaining. So we'll say time remaining. And time remaining down here, king start jump, which is what we want because that's their jump start. And we get the return value from that into this first node, which automatically breaks that. And we can delete that reference. And we still have a couple more to do. So we're going to go back here. That's good now. We got to get this one. That one should be okay. And then we need this one, which is our time remaining for our jump end, because you're going from jump end back to idle. So we'll go here and say time remaining on the jump end. And see, by naming these the way that I did, I know exactly what it is that I'm looking for in this whole sea of things. So I may not use the best naming conventions, but they work for me to try and figure out what's going on here. And we compile, and everything is successful. So with that being said, what we should be able to do now is go out here and hit play. And we have our king. He's idle. You can see his arms moving around. If I decide to run, what's going on there? Why is that doing that? Entry to idle. That's the correct thing there. Can enter transition. This shouldn't matter, but I'm just going to drag these variables over. Oops. I'm going to drag the variables over from the other side, because these are the variables that are actually in my blueprint. Maybe I left something. Maybe I left something from the other one in there. I'm not sure why that didn't transition properly. And over here, let's see. That should work. Jump start to jump loot. So I'll delete this one and bring over our is in air. And if we're not in the air, then we can enter the transition. And then from jump end, time remaining on keep jump and return value transition result. These should work. I don't know why that's not working. We go back to none of this should matter. Mesh. See, he's there idle. He's able to jump, but he's not playing his animations. Synty anim underscore BP. I don't know what happened here, guys. That should work. Let's see if all these play. That plays. That plays. That plays. That plays. Why? They're all playing. Anybody have any ideas? Anybody that's watching? It doesn't make any sense to me. Must have something to do. It's got to be something. Got to be something simple. Can't watch that. Can't watch this. Wonder if I can see that. It's one of the things I'm not 100% sure about. Whoops. Maybe somebody can help me answer this question of mine. But if I were doing this in a regular programming environment, I'd be able to watch through these different processes here and see what's happening. Let's see. Let's see, can we see the event graph of the NMBP? Yeah, let's see. There's the. So I'm in my Synty anim underscore BP. Let me just go back, make sure I got everything set up right. So if I go into third person blueprints, third person character, and I go into the mesh is assigned to the king, Synty character male king, and they are using the Synty underscore anim underscore blueprint. And you can see that some of that's working because the idle run walk right there is active. So if I go to the animation blueprints, that's my Synty anim underscore BP. And inside of here, I have my default anim graph. So there's that. You think it was there in the NMBP? I don't know what you mean. It doesn't set the speed. Let's see. Well, let's go back here then. So let's go back to the third person character, and we'll put it back to the third person NMBP and change this back to the mannequin. And this should all work. Right? So if he jumps, he runs, turns, jumps. The event graph of the NMBP isn't grabbing the values from the character BP. Yeah, I think I replaced those though. That's what's strange to me. I went through and I replaced them all. If I look at his animation blueprint. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's actually not in the animation blueprint, but it's in the event graph. My character doesn't even have the event graph turned on. So, yeah, I didn't put any of this stuff in there to set the speeds. So I think I can just grab this, control copy, go into my NMBP, and on the event graph, I think all that, I don't think these even need to be in there anymore, but think all that maybe fixes it. Compile, save. Go back to the blueprint third person character. Viewport mesh. And go back and get our male king. And our Synty NMBP. Compile. And save. There's my jump. Well, okay. So I will have to fix that, but there's my run. My jump's just got a crazy loop on it. But it works. Kind of. Like also, in these animations, I think the other thing you need to do too is specify how many times it's playing. I think I have all these loops turned on. So anim graph, jump start, and that animation. Actually, let's try the jump loop here. Actually, that one should be looped. It's just too short, maybe. Yeah. I only had 2 frames of that. The other one, I mean, it's definitely doing that. Let's get jump loop, see if we can make it a little bit longer in here. That's weird. Seems like it's awfully far back. Let's try that. Alright, so that's going to replace the jump loop. And then we need to do the same thing out here. King jump loop needs to get deleted. Actually, yeah, I don't think it deletes. I'll just pull the other one in. So I have to give it a different name. So we'll call it King Jumping Loop. Drop that in there. Assign it to the skeleton. and import that. And then I think if I go and delete this king jump loop, I can replace the reference to king jumping loop. That's a little better. So, could just be the start and stop times of those. But I guess the real thing here too is I could just duplicate those other animation sequences for the jump loop and jumping onto this character because of the blueprint functions. But I just wonder if this character looks better than what it would if we did it another way. That was really the whole point of this, was trying to do it from the ground up. But it is tough to find the proper sequence of animation files for these things. And see, from like this thing here, he's jumping, and he's still got that little hitch at the back end. So actually what I've done in the past with these is I was able to do something in here. Preview mesh to the king. And let's go stop there. So if we wanted to, we could keep him. I don't know, maybe somewhere in this range here. So if I said delete, remove from frame 22 to 25, that'll shorten that up on the back end. And over here I could say delete frame 0 to frame 6. And that might keep him in the air a little bit better. I don't know. Save it. Play it. He's jumping at the end of that too. So let's say jump end. So really everything that should be the right thing. It looks good actually as a jump end. But why does it look like it's jumping up at the end of it? It's really not. Oh, that's interesting. So our start jump is really whacked out too. I must have jacked up the start jump. See, that's already in midair and then landing. That's really a better end jump. I think I get these. Did I get these backwards somehow? I mean, that's okay for a jump end also. But that jump start is definitely weird looking. Let's go back over here and get a See if we can get a better jump start. Reset this back to the beginning. Let's see, that's frame 51 of 113. So can you do 51 or 113 minus 51? Is that how you get to the what it wants on the end of this thing? I don't know how to read that, but I think that makes sense. So if we take 113 and subtract 51, then that should put us at 62. 62 gets us to there. Still looks like he's coming down a little bit though. So I would go from here to there. Alright, so that looks about right. So let's download that as start jump. Sorry if this is taking a long time. I'm trying to make this go as painless as possible, but the screwing around with these animations is always kind of crazy. So let's replace this king start jump. And what I said earlier is I'm going to rename this to king start jumping, just so I can bring it in and replace the references. So king start jumping. Go back here and bring that in. We're going to assign that to the fantasy skeleton. Import that. Get rid of the take one thing. So again, I don't know where that's coming from. And then we're going to take our king start jump and delete it. Replace the reference with start jumping. And save all that. Oh, yeah, it's much worse. I don't know, guys. The general concept's there, though. I mean, you know, as far as creating the blueprints and all that stuff, it's really just a matter of getting these animations ticked away. But what I was saying earlier is, if we really wanted to, we could just go into like these three that I'm having the trouble with. The idle walk run looks pretty good, but the start and the jump loop and all that kind of stuff, these things share the same skeleton. So if you were to go into the animations from here and you take that third person jump loop and jump end, you really could just go in here and say retarget and duplicate those assets onto this other skeleton here. And all you have to do to make that work is if you go to the mannequin and you go into the mannequin's character mesh file, there's a skeleton in there for UE4 mannequin skeleton. If you open this up and select a humanoid rig on that, it's going to give you all the different mapping. And even on the advanced side, you have all these. When you do that, you hit save. Now your character's in an A pose. And if you go to the Synty character skeleton, this character's in a T pose. And also some of the mapping, let's go to the advanced side. See, this is what I was talking about last night if you watched any of this. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try I'm not gonna do all the animations. I'm just gonna do the couple for the jumping loops. But what I was saying the other night is this mapping file in the retarget manager for the Synty characters. I think where the problem is, if you look in here, their index finger is mapped correctly, but the middle finger and the ring finger and the pinky finger are actually all the same. So see, they have the ring is listed as finger 1. So that finger 1, you have a thumb, a finger 1, and an index finger. And the middle finger basically has to go to that finger 1 also. So if you were to go in here and say map that to finger 1, and this is the left hand side, so you got to go to finger 1 left over here, because that middle finger is part of a whole assembly thing. So let's go, we'll do the same thing here. Not an assembly, but I'll show you what I mean in a second. So let's go back to finger 2 left. It's just a finger. And then the pinky is part of that. So this is the same thing. This is also finger 01, finger 02, and finger 03. If you make it this way, middle finger on the right, same thing. You go down here. So it's going to be finger 1, finger 2, and finger 3 on the right hand side. And this pinky, same thing. Finger 1, finger 2, and finger 3. I believe that fixes that. So if you want to, you can save this thing. And I'm just going to call this Synty bone mapping. Because if you put this out somewhere, like if you see in my some of my other animation tutorials like we talked about last night, if you save this file, you can actually bring this into other projects and already have your bone mapping set up. So let's say you said, I have a bunch of animations that aren't from Synty that I'd like to use with my Synty characters, but retargeting squashes the shoulders. It shouldn't, if this is set up correctly. It should leave this the way that it is. But what I was talking about there with the fingers is if you spin this around, we talked about this a little bit last night. You have a thumb, an index finger, and then all these other fingers are all just the same finger. So they're just called finger, but it's not mapped in there that way. So you gotta fix that. And I think when you map everything else over, it should make it so that the animations work a little bit better on these Synty characters. So the only other thing we have to do is we gotta make our skeleton go into this T pose. So if we go to mannequin, character, mesh, and get his skeleton, all you do with this is grab the upper arm and take this up like 50. This lower arm goes back like maybe 30. And down, whoops, not that, but this arm, I'm going to bring it down like 10. And you can bring this wrist or hand section up. Let's do 20. Do the same thing here. Upper arm, we'll take this up 50. We'll take the lower arm back 30. We'll take this arm down 10. And we'll bring the wrist up 20. So something like that, just to make it like a T pose. And then over here under modify pose, you just go hit modify pose, say use current pose. And you save that. And since you now have two humanoid rigged characters, you should be able to go to the animation and say you want to take the third person jump and retarget that onto the SK Fantasy character skeleton. And then you just change the folder that it's in. So I'm going to go Polygon folder, back to this animation thing. And I'm just going to say OK and retarget. And I'm going to rename this to King Jump. And then we'll do the other one. We'll go back to animations. I'm just going to do these one at a time just to make it simple for myself. But there's the jump. Here's jump end. We're going to retarget. And we're going to change the folder into there. And same thing. I'm just going to call this King Jump End. Okay. And we'll go back to the animations again. And we got a third person jump loop. I'm going to retarget this to same thing. Change the character file over here. And retarget. And we'll call this King Jump Loop. Okay. So if I take the King Jump, right, that's our jump start. That's our jump end. And then we have our jump loop. So I should be able to replace these into the thing. So where's my King Jump Start? King Start Jumping. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm just going to replace the reference to King Jump. So my jump start is the same as this jump. Replace the reference, delete the thing, save it. I'll do my King Jumping loop. Yeah. King Jumping loop gets deleted and gets replaced with King Jump loop. I believe that's what I did. And then the same thing here with the jump end. We'll delete that and replace it with King Jump End. And okay, so now I should have my idle walk and run from Mixamo and my jump start loop and end from the mannequin. And they should all be associated in that blueprint. So now if I hit play, I think I'm going to have what I was looking for in the first place. Not bad. So there he is running. Jump, and the loop's pretty decent. Yeah, it's better than the other one was. And you can see that the hands still look like they did before, where you got the thumb, the index finger, and the other three fingers together there. Probably looks a little bit better if he's actually moving when he jumps, but you get the idea. And I think that the reason that we were doing this way was because when I created a retarget of this character in another way, it seemed like it hosed it up a little bit, but this works better if you're building the animation blueprints and everything from the ground up. Most of it was because of the skeleton, I believe, the changes in there. But we could verify that very quickly by going over here. Let's go create another folder, and we'll call this, I don't know what we want to call it. We'll call it UE animations. Let's do it that way. Under our Polygon Fantasy character. And then what we can do is just go to our mannequin and take the third person anim BP. Right click on it and say retarget anim blueprint onto that skeleton. And we'll prefix everything with UE underscore. And we'll stick it in Polygon Fantasy UE animations and hit OK and retarget. And what that should do is bring everything over. And we'll save all. And that's going to bring everything. So the idle, walk, run, the blend space, all that kind of stuff for UE, third person, and MVP. And then all I got to do is go back to the blueprint for the third person game character in that mesh. And instead of using the Synty and MVP, I should be able to say use the UE third person and MVP. If we go to our viewport, we'll see that that's still working. And now we hit play and see the hand mapping. See, got a little twisted there. See that? That right hand is curled up and twisted and distorted, which it shouldn't have been if everything was right. And I think that character, see, it looks like his arms are back a little bit further. See that? See how his arms are like kind of tucked in? Shoulders are tucked in. He's got like that wide A-frame stance. So I actually think that the other character animation blueprint looks better. Viewport mesh. And we'll use our Synty NMBP instead. I think that gets him out a little bit nicer, because he wasn't being distorted by those other NMBPs. I don't know. Actually, now that I say that, I'd have to do a side-by-side comparison of those two characters. Maybe they are the same, but they don't look it to me when I look in that viewport. Let's see. Spin this around a little bit. I think if you change it right here, you can see. Yeah, see, it pulls his arms in and kind of cripples his top half up a little bit there. Kind of tucks everything back in too far. So I would definitely say that the Synty NMBP looks a little bit better. I don't know if anybody would agree with that or not, but that should get it. And again, just the timing of some of the animation sequences. See, like, to me, I've never liked the default UE jump height. So what I do a lot of times, I would go into that third person blueprint, and under the character movement, there's a section in here under jump Z velocity, and I would bring this down to like maybe 400, and then see if you like that jump a little bit better. It's still kind of like space jump, you know. Let's go knock it down to 300. And I feel like there's no gravity on that character when they get way up in the air like that and float. 300. Compile and save. Definitely a smaller jump height. I jumped up the steps there for anybody watching that. It looked kind of weird. Normally he would just run up the steps, but I happened to hit the jump button at the same time I got to the bottom of the stairs, so you get kind of this effect here. Okay. But that's our Polygon Fantasy pack. And running it up to Mixamo to grab a couple of animations, and actually using a few of the animations from the default mannequin. But this process of using these Mixamo using the Synty FBXs and getting those animations off the store, that should work pretty well for a lot of things. And I still feel like this character looks better than it would if I had done it the other way. Even with something simple like that hand distortion thing. Looks pretty good to me. I don't know, what do you guys think out there? You think that remapping works a little bit better? Kind of feel like it does. I think they even have in this character pack, they have a couple of see what's in the items folder. So there's a dagger. A wizard staff. There's the scepter. So the king should have the scepter, right? Let's go get the king. And put a scepter in his hand. So character, whoop. Preview mesh with the king. And if you take the skeleton tree, what you can do is, like, let's say you want that in his right hand. You go out here under right hand and you right click and say add socket. And then I'm just going to call this weapon RH for right hand. And then under that, you right click and say add preview asset. And then here, I should be able to look for scepter. And that'll pull the scepter in. And then you can just take the scepter, make sure you're on that, right? And now we can use our items here to rotate that around. And then you want to use your translation to move it out and move it up and kind of get it to where it's going to be in his hand. And I'm holding the Alt key to go up and zoom around this thing. So I'm going to take that and drag him down a little bit. And I'm going to take my tool here and angle it a little bit more this way. Oh, and we'll take that and what did that do there? Drag this out some. That's his, shoot, that's his finger. Let's not drag his finger out. Actually want the weapon. Just trying to line it up a little bit. I don't know, but you can save that, and then when you got to the game, you should have had that on him. I thought there was a way to turn that on so that it's already on there with it. Probably have to just do it in a script or something to equip it. I feel like there was a way to do that though. I don't know. But anyway, there he is. And you can bring in some of your other packs to work with this character or any of these characters. But I think also, since they all use that same skeleton, the other thing that's nice about this too is you could really just go right back into your blueprints and go into your third person character, into the mesh, and grab, what did it say here? I'm just reading your comment. Can you try retargeting default walk or run animation from the mannequin to the Synty character? Yeah, sure. I kind of did that in here, but I'll go back to, I did that here with the UE animations and it pulled them up. The walk, run, and idle. So you can see how it does squish the shoulders in. I mean, this is basically what would happen if I did it with the retarget. I think it would do the same thing. But what I'm going to do, just to appease ourselves here for that question, I'm going to do it manually from the mannequin animation folder like we did for the other ones as a single. So I'll go and I'll say you want the walk and the run. So if I go third person walk or third person run, I'll just say retarget, pick that character, and I'm going to go ahead and stick that in the animation folder. And I'm going to prefix that with a UE underscore retarget that one. So that's, oh, there he is running with his scepter. Alright, so that's the UE third person run. And actually I want to call that UE King, just so I know it goes to the King. And we'll do the same thing from this animation. And third person walk. Put that in the animation folder there. And we'll call this UE underscore King underscore. And retarget that. So now we have the UE King third person run and UE King third person walk. So all we would do is go into our Synty blend space 2D, and instead of King walking, we want our King UE King walk. UE King third person walk would go over top of that one. So now that's UE King third person walk. And we'll do UE King third person run and put that there. And now it should be using those animations in the blueprint. So I don't like that. It looks like it does. See how it's rocking the shoulders back and forth, and they're all squished in. I think that's what you're talking about. So let's go back and change these back to the ones that I had for King running. I think that looks a lot better. You don't have those caved in shoulders that are pretty common in the retargets I've seen with the skeleton. I like this a lot better. So if you could get away, if you could live with, oh look, you can see it right there when I jump, see how it caves the shoulders in? So yeah, the retargeting animation, I'll have to figure that out. It's got to be something with the way that the bones are mapped in there. Yeah. I think we were pretty close to it. On the other one, it just was a matter of finding something that's got the right animation length for all those different things. And I'm not 100% sure. Not 100% sure that we need the exact length that's specified in the other one. It's just you got to find something that kind of facilitates the the purpose of that whole thing with jumping up in the air and how long you're going to be there. Well, I definitely feel like the idle, walk, and run solution from Mixamo looks a ton better. And I will go and try and find, I mean, I'm going to cut this live stream off here right around now because I got to go watch the Walking Dead, which we recorded, so my wife's waiting on me very patiently, I might add. And I like this better, but what we'll do is the next time we get together, which hopefully will be tomorrow night around the same time, I will go through and try and get those other 3 animations for the jump loop, and the jump end. We'll try and get those nailed down from Mixamo, which again, I'm using this character, and we're just going to go in here and try and find some jump stuff. So we'll get that all squared away tomorrow. And then from there, I guess we'll move on to doing something else with the things. So I see here you say there's a specific animation you'd like to retarget. Why don't you tell me what it is, and I'll I'll try and figure it out for you. But you can just leave a comment here in this video. I'll check it again tomorrow night before I get on. Or you can send me the URL link if you want to. I'm going to give you my email address. I'm going to state it right now in the stream, so hopefully the 4 people that are watching or 3 people that are watching don't spam me to death, and anybody that watches this later doesn't. But my email address is tc, like Tango Charlie, underscore mabe, M-A-B-E, at yahoo.com. tc underscore mabe at yahoo.com. So if you want to get in touch with me directly, that's probably the easiest way to do that. I get all those emails, and eventually, if this channel grows or whatever and people have specific questions, I might set up a Discord to make it easier to get in touch with me for specific stuff. But again, guys, thanks for watching. I'm not a professional educator, and hopefully you guys learned a little something, at least navigating through here and playing around. But if you saw anything that you'd like to know more about, or you'd like to have turned into a tutorial that I didn't already cover in some of my other animation tutorials, feel free to let me know, and I'll try and post a more concise version of whatever we did here. That's typically what I like to do. I like to find a tip or a trick and narrow it down to a few minutes of very direct, specific instruction. These aren't tutorials. These are just noodling around while we're all on viral contagion lockdown over here in the United States. So hopefully everybody's safe, stay healthy, and I'll try and get on again tomorrow night around the same time. And again, thanks for watching. If you have questions, shoot me a message, and I will catch you later. You guys have a good night, and thanks again for watching. Take care.